She left her family, chasing the dream to help others, ending up helping the one who would ultimately destroy her. They called her the nurse with healing hands, and in the cold silence of a hospital morgue, those same hands would lie frozen, because love for her turned into obsession for him. This is not just a story of a crime. It's a story of a woman who gave everything for compassion and paid the highest price. She left behind the narrow alleyways of Quezon City and the scent of rain-soaked Manila streets to walk the gleaming marble corridors of Dubai Crescent Hospital. Her name was Amihan Reyes, a name that would soon be whispered with fear, reverence, and sorrow throughout the Middle East and far beyond. Born in 1995, Amihan was the eldest of 4 siblings. Her childhood was shaped by sacrifice. After her father died in a construction accident, her mother worked multiple jobs just to put food on the table. Every exam, every sleepless night in nursing school, every patient she cared for was her way of keeping a promise to lift her family from struggle. And she had done it. Summa cum laude from the University of the Philippines. Jobs in top hospitals in Manila and Singapore. And finally, a prestigious appointment at the most elite medical center in the Gulf. Dubai Crescent Hospital was like no other, a glass skyscraper that changed colors with the sun, filled with million-dollar surgical suites, private chefs for VIP patients, and penthouse recovery rooms with views of Burj Khalifa. But the luxury was only for some. Nurses like Amihan shared modest staff accommodations, ate in basement cafeterias, and worked 12-hour shifts without complaint. It didn't matter. Amihan wasn't chasing glamour. She was here for something far more important: money for her mother's expensive arthritis treatment, tuition for her brother Marco's dream of studying medicine, and a future where her family no longer had to choose between medicine and meals. By all accounts, her patients loved her. Children calmed when she entered the room. Emirati elders requested her by name. Her colleagues marveled at how she could read a blood pressure cuff like it was a poem. Doctors noticed too, especially one. Dr. Zayn Alarscy, celebrated heart surgeon, media darling, born into Emirati aristocracy and trained in London, Harvard, and the Cleveland Clinic. With near-divine precision in the operating room and a charisma that charmed donors and royalty alike, Zayn was more than a doctor, he was a brand. Advertised by the hospital like a luxury wristwatch. His department generated millions for the hospital. He was respected, worshipped, untouchable. And one quiet February morning in 2023, their lives collided. She was assisting in an emergency when she suggested a treatment approach that defied protocol and saved the life of a royal patient. He looked at her not like a nurse, but like a mystery he didn't yet understand. And from that moment on, something began. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. At first, it was mentorship, clinical curiosity, an interest in her heritage and healing methods. He asked questions about her grandmother's traditional medicines, listened for hours as she explained herbs and intuition, much more than he ever did with others. But something shifted. He started requesting her specifically in surgeries, watching her during rounds, summoning her to his office alone. And while the hospital whispered about a growing closeness, Amihan said little. There were few who could imagine what was truly unfolding, that these early steps that looked so harmless, were already part of a path leading straight into darkness. A darkness waiting in the morgue below. Something unspoken began to change in the corridors of Dubai Crescent Hospital. Doctors noticed it first, not in what was said, but in the long silences between them. The way Dr. Zayn Alarscy's eyes lingered too long when Amihan passed. How she was frequently paged to his office for extended consultations that weren't documented in hospital records. Colleagues observed her name appearing more and more often alongside his in surgical schedules. Rumors began, but no one dared confront the star surgeon. When asked, Amihan downplayed it. She told her friends it was mentorship, professional interest, nothing more. Zayn, after all, was a prominent figure, appearing on front pages of medical journals and in glossy magazines alongside diplomats and crown princes. He could have had anything or anyone. So why would he pursue a nurse who still lived in shared dorm housing? But something about her caught him, something he couldn't control. Her calm demeanor, her sincere compassion, her simplicity. In a world of gold walls and designer smiles, Amihan's authenticity disarmed him. And around her, Zayn was not the branded genius, but something raw, something unprepared. Amihan, for her part, respected him deeply. She admired his knowledge, followed his surgeries with awe, even believed that perhaps he saw in her what others didn't. She never craved status or power, but in Zayn's attention, she saw validation. Until the line between professional respect and something else began to blur. She once confided to her roommate, "He's intense, brilliant, but sometimes I feel like he's watching even when he's not in the room." What started as mentorship had grown into shadows that began creeping into her personal life. Zayn started showing up unexpectedly in hospital cafes, outside her shift rooms, even in hallways far from his department. He'd ask personal questions. What time did she sleep? Who did she speak to at lunch? Why wasn't she answering his late-night messages? There were flowers left in her locker, notes without signatures, gifts she never accepted. The intensity became controlling. He began asking her not to speak with specific staff members, changed her assignments to places where she was always in his field of view. Hospital Administrator Ibrahim Khoury received unusual scheduling emails, requests that limited which wards Amihan could enter or which shifts she could work. He told her it was for her own good, for her safety, for efficiency, but Amihan began to feel suffocated. He made sure no one else noticed. At gala dinners with his wife on his arm, he smiled with surgical precision. Nadia, elegant and unreadable, remained beside him like armor. But beneath the surface, something was unraveling. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. By mid-August, Amihan knew something was wrong. He was changing, possessive, intense, as if he'd convinced himself that she belonged to him. And as the walls of the hospital shimmered with luxury, she began to feel more like a captive than a caregiver. What she didn't know was that Zayn had already crossed a line, not just emotionally, but digitally, physically, and deeply into her life. And whatever boundaries she tried to build, he had already decided he would never let her go. By late August, the quiet fear that Amihan Reyes felt had turned into something constant, like a pressure sitting on her chest. Every step she took inside Dubai Crescent Hospital felt monitored. Every message she sent, every glance exchanged in a hallway suddenly felt unsafe. She wasn't imagining it. One day her phone glitched. Messages opened that she hadn't seen, calls missed that she never received. At first, she thought it was a software issue. But when she spoke to her tech-savvy friend Gabriel, a nurse who dabbled in mobile security, his face went pale. According to him, the data logs didn't lie. Her phone had spyware, sophisticated, commercial-grade surveillance software capable of tracking not only her location but also reading her messages, listening through her microphone, and monitoring her calls. She felt sick. Amihan didn't want to believe who was behind it, but doubt quickly died when she remembered the only moment her phone had been out of her hands, left on Dr. Zayn Alarscy's desk during an emergency late-night call. She hadn't thought much of it then, but now nothing felt like coincidence. And it was no longer only about the hospital. Zayn had started appearing in her personal spaces, at supermarket aisles she frequented, outside her staff dorm building, even at a Filipino community fundraiser she hadn't posted about anywhere. At first, he would smile and act surprised at seeing her, but his eyes told a different story, cold, calculating, refusing to blink. The man who once represented excellence in healing now stood quietly at the edges of her life, watching everything, feeling entitled to every part of it. She began pulling away, stopped replying immediately, avoided areas he usually lingered in. She even moved her locker and started using hospital computers to look up anything personal, afraid her own phone would betray her. Then came the breaking point. On September 18th, Amihan volunteered for a shift in pediatrics, far away from the cardiac unit. A sick child needed overnight attention, and she thought it would be the perfect escape. But Zayn found her. Witnesses saw him confront her in the hallway, grabbing her arm tightly, his voice low but furious. Later, Amihan would photograph the bruise on her elbow and send it to her sister Maria with one message. "I don't feel safe anymore, but if I say no, I'm afraid of what he'll do." Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. Every part of her life was under pressure: home, work, even family. Because in early September, Zayn crossed another unthinkable line. He reached out to Amihan's mother in the Philippines without her knowledge. He paid for Amihan Reyes' treatment at one of Manila's most expensive private hospitals. Over $5,000 transferred directly. To Amihan's mother, it felt like an act of impossible kindness from an institution she believed cared for her daughter. But to Amihan, it was something else entirely. A violation so deep it left her breathless. He had inserted himself into her family, her culture, her mother's failing health, all to send one subtle, terrifying message: "I control you here, and back home too." And despite the fear pooling in her heart, Amihan knew what she had to do next. She had to leave, quietly, quickly, before it was too late. In the quiet hours after midnight, when the hospital finally went still, Amihan Reyes sat with her laptop open on a corner desk in the staff library, her fingers trembling above the keyboard. Her decision was made. She was going home. Everything inside her begged her to run, not just from a toxic entanglement, but from a powerful man who believed loving her meant controlling her. Truthfully, it had never been love, not in the way she gave it. More than anything, she feared what would happen if she stayed. On September 24th, her lifeline arrived, an email from the Philippine Heart Center in Manila. It was a formal job offer as Assistant Director of Cardiac Nursing. The pay was modest compared to Dubai, but it was enough. Enough to cover rent, enough to care for her mother, enough to breathe again. The stars had aligned, but where there should have been hope, there was only fear. She began her exit plan with quiet precision. She told no supervisors. She searched for flights only on public hospital computers. She avoided using her phone unless absolutely necessary. Even her savings deposits she rerouted to her sister's account instead of her own. Her roommates noticed her silence. "You're so quiet lately," one of them said. Amihan only smiled softly, but her eyes couldn't hide the fatigue or the fear. She reached out gently to the people she trusted the most, gathered advice. A small group of Filipino nurses met at Gabriel Santos's apartment. Phones off, curtains drawn. They weighed her options. Should she resign officially or disappear, try to talk to Zayn, or cut contact entirely? "We don't know what this man is capable of," Jasmine warned. Amihan nodded. "I'm scared," she admitted. "He really believes I belong to him." Still, she chose to resign the right way. On September 30th, she walked into HR and handed Director Aisha Mohammed her resignation letter. She kept her shoulders high and her voice steady. "I'd like to leave by the end of October," she said. "It's a family emergency." But behind her eyes, terror. She specifically requested that Zayn not be notified until she could tell him herself. The HR director, sensing something was off, agreed. Her relief was brief. What she didn't know was that another storm was already building. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. Because while Amihan was crafting her escape, someone else was making sure Zayn discovered the truth. His wife, Nadia. Elegant, calculating, always perfectly composed. On October 2nd, she summoned Zayn home earlier than usual. When he arrived at their penthouse, she was waiting, surrounded by documents, photos, and evidence meticulously gathered. Images of him and Amihan entering hotels together, credit card charges, text messages printed in full. She gave him an ultimatum so cold, so final, it shattered something in Zayn that night. "This ends by Friday," she said, "or your name, your career, and everything you've ever built disappears." She walked out the door, and behind her Zayn sat alone, rage swirling beneath silence. Something inside him had broken, and soon something far worse would follow. The air had shifted. After Nadia's ultimatum, Zayn Alarscy was no longer the graceful, untouchable figure the hospital adored. Now he moved through the corridors as if hunted, his footsteps fast, his hands tense. Colleagues who once admired his calm precision noticed frightened stutters in his behavior. In meetings, he repeated himself. In surgery, his once perfect incisions went shaky. Dr. James Morrison, an anesthesiologist who had assisted Zayn for 6 years, would later testify. He looked like a man holding a bomb in his chest, silently counting down. And the fuse was burning fast. On October 3rd, Zayn made critical errors during surgery, misprescribing medication, misidentifying patients, relying on juniors to correct him. A nurse noted that he stood outside the cardiac unit for long minutes, watching Amihan through the glass divider, never moving, never blinking. Amihan saw it too. Though she kept her routine strictly professional, she could feel him pacing behind her. His glances grew more intense. His text messages shorter and more demanding. She delayed replying. She smiled less. She stopped walking alone. Still, she hoped there was one moment left where words could end it all. She asked Zayn to meet her in the hospital chapel, a neutral space filled with light where patients occasionally came to pray. She chose it for its security cameras, for its silence, for the kind of respect it demanded, even from a man who no longer listened to boundaries. At 2 p.m. on October 6th, she sat across from him in that chapel holding a photograph of her mother. She told him gently but firmly that she was leaving, that her family needed her, that this relationship, whatever it had been, was over. Zayn offered everything: to move her mother to Dubai, to fund a private clinic for her, to leave his wife permanently. But Amihan didn't want his money. She only wanted something he refused to give: freedom. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. After the chapel meeting, Amihan sent her final text to her roommate Jasmine. "I told him I'm leaving. He didn't take it well. He got very quiet and said we'd talk again when I was thinking more clearly." That evening, she received one final message from him. "Meet me in the morgue tonight, 11:30. There's something important about a patient you should see. It can't wait." Her reply was hesitant. "I'm scheduled in cardiac until midnight. Can we talk tomorrow?" His answer came immediately. "No, tonight, 11:30. She stared at the screen for a long time, told herself it was nothing, just a meeting, just a conversation. But deep down she knew. At 9:32 p.m., she sent a voice message to her sister Maria. Her words were soft, barely above a whisper. "If something happens to me tonight, the blue folder with my documents is in my locker. Tell Mama I love her." She got dressed, her badge clipped steady, her hands shaking. And at 11:28 p.m., Amihan Reyes took the elevator down to the lowest level of Dubai Crescent Hospital. To the morgue. To Zayn. To the final moments of her life. The hallway to the morgue was colder than usual, even for Dubai Crescent Hospital. There were no windows on the basement level. No sound but the soft clicking of Amihan's shoes against the polished concrete floor. The lights flickered softly as she approached Morgue B, a secondary facility rarely used, one that Zayn had specifically mentioned. She hesitated at the door for a moment, checked her phone one last time. No new messages, just the silence stretching ahead. She pulled the steel door open and walked in. Inside, the air tightened, the temperature sterile, the light a soft, clinical white. Stainless steel tables lined the walls. Freezers hummed in the background. It smelled of disinfectant and something deeper, something frozen. Zayn was already there, standing beside one of the large body storage units. But he wasn't in his surgical scrubs. He was dressed in casual clothes, dark jeans, a polo shirt, and a heavy medical bag placed at his feet. At first he smiled, told her calmly that he needed her opinion on unusual post-mortem bruising patterns. He gestured toward the back of the room. Something about the way he directed her seemed rehearsed, too casual, too calm. Amihan followed slowly. Then something changed. He closed the distance between them too quickly. She stepped back. He began talking faster, nervous, then pleading. "You don't understand what we have," he said. "I am leaving my wife. I'll move your whole family here. Your mother will have the best care in the world. You won't ever need to work another day." Amihan shook her head. "I care for you," she said carefully, "but I need to go home. My mother is sick. And this isn't love. It doesn't feel safe anymore." Those words, "This isn't love," they shattered something in Zayn. And this is where the line between obsession and murder disappeared forever. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now let's get back to it. From that moment on, what happened between them shifted into horror. Forensic evidence would later show she struggled. There were bruises on her arms, defensive wounds on her hands. She scratched him, fought him, resisted. But he was stronger. From his medical bag, he produced a syringe filled with propofol, a surgical-grade sedative. He didn't inject randomly. He struck with the precision of a surgeon directly into her carotid artery. It was fast, cold, calculated. Within seconds, her body fell limp. She was unconscious, breathing slowing, body shutting down. Any ordinary person would have called for help, run, screamed, fallen to pieces. But Zayn Alarscy didn't panic. He opened the morgue freezer Unit 3, and carefully, almost lovingly, laid Amihan Reyes on the middle shelf. He removed her ID badge, her hospital phone, then reached into the bag and pulled out the diamond bracelet she had once returned to him. He gently fastened it around her wrist like offering a last gift. And then, inch by inch, he closed the freezer door, sealing her into a space meant for the dead. She was still alive when he left her there, sedated, unconscious, slowly freezing. And above the hospital remained silent. Another shift, another night. Unaware one of their brightest had just been buried under steel and ice, by the hands of the man she once trusted. Morning came quietly to Dubai Crescent Hospital. The sun rose over glittering towers, its light bouncing off the hospital's crescent-shaped windows. Upstairs, patients were greeted with breakfast trays and bedside checkups. Life continued as it always did. Until 7:23 a.m. Mohammed Al-Mansuri, a morgue technician starting his shift, made his usual rounds. He began with Morgue A, routine inventory, nothing out of place. Then moved to Morgue B, where Freezer Unit 3 was marked in the log as empty and under maintenance. Still, protocol required a visual check. He opened the heavy freezer door. Inside, neatly placed on the middle shelf, was a young woman, still in her nursing scrubs, hands clasped like she had fallen asleep in a snowstorm. Frost coated her eyelashes. Her skin was blue-gray from exposure. Her badge was missing, but her face, he knew her instantly. Amihan Reyes. He stumbled backward, gasping, then sprinted for the emergency panel. The morgue was locked down within minutes. Security rushed in. Doctors, administrators, no one could believe what they were seeing. Dr. Layla Hakim arrived just before 8:00 a.m. She fell to her knees beside the body. "Amihan," she whispered, but it was already too late. Her skin was ice. There were needle marks on her neck. And on her wrist, a diamond bracelet. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. By 8:15 a.m., Detective Zayn Alarscy from Dubai Police Special Investigations arrived. One look into the freezer told him everything he needed to know. This was not an accident, and this was not suicide. This was murder. Security footage told the story frame by frame. 11:31 p.m., Amihan enters the morgue. 20 minutes before, Zayn Alarscy had entered through a private executive entrance. Neither of them is seen exiting. Later, much later, between 2:00 and 6:00 a.m., Zayn returned 3 separate times. Opening the freezer, looking inside, watching her as she died. The hospital's internal systems showed something even darker. Zayn had used his administrative credentials to alter freezer logs, deactivate the temperature alarm, and mark the unit as out of use. On his laptop, technical forensics later found search history for how long before sedatives cause respiratory arrest and body survival time in freezing temperatures. The pieces were falling into place faster than anyone had imagined. By that afternoon, Zayn was summoned to the hospital under the pretense of an emergency meeting. He walked in, calm as always, until Detective Alarscy stepped forward and said, "Dr. Alarscy, you're under arrest for the murder of Amihan Reyes." Zayn blinked slowly, his voice barely a whisper. "She wasn't supposed to suffer," he said. "The cold would keep her perfect with me." Doctors nearby gasped. A surgeon, a genius, a man who had saved lives by the hundreds, had just confessed to ending one because he couldn't bear to let her choose a life without him. Zayn Alarscy's hands had healed thousands. But that morning, the world discovered what those same hands had done in the shadows: to love, control, and kill. The arrest of Dr. Zayn Alarscy sent shockwaves across the world. A heart surgeon once celebrated in glossy magazines now stood in handcuffs, facing charges of premeditated murder. Dubai Crescent Hospital, once a symbol of medical excellence, found itself at the center of a scandal darker than anything the region had ever seen. And while media headlines focused on the shocking nature of the crime, in a quiet neighborhood in Quezon City, Manila, a mother wept softly in a hospital bed. Elena Reyes, Amihan's mother, had spent months praying for her daughter's safe return. She thought Amihan was thriving in Dubai. She thought she was saving for their future. No mother imagines her child dying in a freezer, alone. Accompanied by her 2 other children, Elena flew to Dubai in January 2024 to bring Amihan home. At the airport, the Philippine consul held her hand, and behind them, dozens of Filipino nurses stood in somber silence, wearing black ribbons over their uniforms. Amihan's coffin, draped in both the Philippine and UAE flags, was placed gently into the aircraft. She was finally going home. Back in Dubai, the trial of Zayn Alarscy began on December 5, 2023, in a courtroom silent with anticipation. Prosecutors were unrelenting. They laid out the timeline, the obsession, the spyware, the manipulation of hospital systems, the calculated steps taken to lure Amihan to her death. Surveillance footage, text messages, the altered freezer logs, the bracelet on her wrist. And then there were the journals, hundreds of pages in Zayn's handwriting, obsessively documenting her movements, quoting her words, and in one chilling entry: "If I can't have her in life, I will keep her in perfect stillness, like a sculpture of love, unchanging." Before we continue with these final moments of justice, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future stories that honor silence, strength, and truth. Let's get back to it. On the stand, Zayn never cried. He spoke of Amihan not as a victim, but as a connection misunderstood by society. He called her his mirror, and claimed he acted out of protection, not violence. When the verdict came guilty on all counts, the courtroom remained painfully still. And then came the sentence: life imprisonment, no possibility of parole. He said nothing, just stared out the courtroom window as if searching for something long gone. Justice had been delivered, but Amihan's story was far from over. The Philippine government posthumously awarded her the Bagong Bayani Medal, given to overseas workers who served bravely under duress. Her name was inscribed on a monument for Filipino heroes. Back at Philippine General Hospital, where she'd once volunteered as a student nurse, a garden was built in her memory. The plaque reads simply: Amihan Reyes, 1995-2023. She came to heal, she left a legacy. The UAE responded too. Dubai Crescent Hospital launched sweeping reforms, banning after-hours access to morgue facilities, enforcing multi-level approvals for private office access, and raising protections for foreign nurses, especially women. And then came the Amihan Reyes Nursing Scholarship, funded by the hospital and Gulf-based donors. It sends 5 nursing students per year from the Philippines to top medical institutions, giving hope where fear once stood. Zayn remains in solitary confinement in a psychiatric medical prison, still journaling, still believing she's near. But the world has moved on, because the woman he tried to own, freeze, and silence now lives through every nurse whose dream she helped make possible. Thank you for watching this heartbreaking yet vital story. Amihan Reyes was more than just a nurse. She was a daughter, a healer, and a light extinguished too soon. If her story moved you, share it, open a conversation, because no one should feel unsafe where they dedicate their life to saving others. Subscribe for more real stories that demand to be heard. And remember, behind every uniform is a human heart. Let's never forget the name Amihan Reyes and the lessons her story leaves behind. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and take care of each other.